Hello and welcome to this session in which we'll keep working with the SOC engagement. In the prior two sessions, we assess whether the management description of the service organization system align with the description criteria, and we looked for SOC 1 and SOC 2. After you evaluate the description, what you need to do, you need to gather evidence and assess whether the control are designed suitably, are designed properly to achieve the objectives. So now what we're looking at is the suitability of the controls. And this is what we will discuss in this session. But remember, as you are assessing the description, you could also learn about the suitability of the controls at the same time. So you're going to see what we're going to be discussing here is certain techniques or evidence gathering techniques that works both for the management description as well as the suitability of the design. And remember, we can look at the description and the suitability of the design in a type 1 type of report where we're looking for a point in time, or we can look for it for a type 2 where we are looking for a period of time. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, farhatlectures.com.
Farhat Accounting Lectures is a supplemental educational tool that's going to help you with your CPA exam preparation as well as your accounting courses. My CPA material is aligned with your CPA review course such as Becker, Roger, Wiley, Gleam, Miles. My accounting courses are aligned with your accounting courses broken down by chapter and topics. My resources consist of lectures, multiple choice questions, true-false questions, as well as exercises. Go ahead, start your free trial today.
Evaluating the suitability of the controls. Basically, it comes after evaluating the description. But as I mentioned, there are certain techniques that you can learn and evaluate the suitability of the control at the same time. Again, what is the suitability of the control? Are the controls designed properly to achieve the objective that you want to achieve? That's what we're trying to figure out. So the process of evaluating the suitability of the design of the control involves various methods that a service auditor can use to gather evidence about a service organization, systems, and their associated controls. Some overlap with the description. I mentioned this. One of the techniques that we can use, it's one of the easiest, the cheapest, but not the most reliable, is inquiries of people at the company. Just ask questions, ask people, ask relevant people. The auditor engages in discussion with the organization's personnel. For what purpose? To understand the design and operational effectiveness of the control or specific system events. You talk to them. Let them explain it to you. So an auditor might ask the IT manager about the procedures for updating software to prevent security breaches and how these procedures are communicated and enforced within the team to see if the procedures are suitable for the control objective that they're trying to achieve. Another way to learn about the suitability of the control is inspection of document. That's another method. The auditor examines relevant document that describes the control and their intended function. Just show me on paper what you have. Reviewing a company's written policy on data encryption to verify that it's aligned with the industry standards and effectively protect sensitive information. This is an example of it. Just show me your policy. I want to take a look at them. Conducting walkthrough. And we talked about walkthrough in the prior sessions when we looked at the description. Basically the same concept. This involved the auditor observing the actual processing and control within the system to see how they operate in practice. The auditor could follow a transaction from initiation to completion. That's a walkthrough. At the same time, observing how each control is applied at different checkpoints, at different controls, such as approval signature. Are we getting approval signature? Do we have a system to check data entries? So on and so forth. So this is another form of evidence. Reviewing system documentation. Now, it's a different form of documentation. Here we look at the support and documentation related to the system. Each system, each software, each process will have its own documentation. The auditor reads and assesses the support and documentation related to system to understand the controls better. Examining the user manual for a new accounting software to understand how the software handles error detection and correction. That's an example of it. It's the system documentation. Also, the company will have their own documentation, inspection, their own policies. We look at those as well. We're just learning to determine whether it's properly suitable to achieve the objective. Assessment of security measures. Here determining whether the system properly address potential security threats, including attacks, vulnerabilities, emergent risk, and other threats. An example will be assessing a recent software patch to determine its effectiveness in mitigation a known vulnerability that could allow unauthorized access to confidential data. So they did implement the patch. Let's see if what they implemented achieved the objective, which is what? Not allowing unauthorized users to access the system. What else do we have to do when we are assessing the suitability of the controls? Well, we should follow a few things. One, is this implemented on regular basis? Is this mean, are the controls implemented on regular basis? Or is it a one-time thing, or they do it for 3 days, then they stop, they do it for 5 hours, and they stop for 2 hours, and they start again? How regular is implementing these controls? That's one thing. Okay, they're being designed properly, but are they implemented continuously? Are they on regular basis being applied? Also, the people handling those controls, the capability and authority of the people responsible for overseeing those controls, are they properly trained, competent, capable? You have to look at that as well, because that will influence. You might have the best control, but if the people working these controls, they don't understand them, that's one thing, and that's why you talk to them. If they cannot explain it to you, then guess what? It's not good. If they cannot explain it properly, it means they don't understand it. That's something we have to look at to determine the suitability of the control. What else can we look at? We can look at the accuracy and responsiveness of the processes within the control system. So when we have an issue, how fast and how accurate does the system alert us, send us a signal that something is wrong? How sensitive it is to deviation, to any adverse reaction? In other words, is it accurate? Are the control system accurate enough? For example, if we have an alert system, does it alert us and those alerts are accurate? Any inconsistencies in the evidence that might indicate the control are not operating effectively would also have to be taken into account. So when we're looking at the suitability of the design, we want to see if there's anything that shows us that the design is not working properly. We could have few things that are working properly, and one thing is like it's not really working properly. So we have to question the suitability of the design. But those are the things that we have to complement or supplement the evidence with. So everything we look at in terms of evidence, is it being done on a regular basis? Is it being carried by properly trained individual? Are the control responsiveness working properly, achieving their objective? And if there's any evidence that shows otherwise, we need to know. Let's take a look at this multiple choice question from farhatlectures.com. An auditor is assessing a pharmaceutical company's control over its drug safety monitoring process. The process involves automated alerts, this is the control, that notify a safety officer whenever an adverse reaction of a certain severity are reported. Which aspect is the most crucial for the auditor to consider when evaluating the suitability of these controls? So what happened is they have a control where there's an automated alert anytime there's an adverse reaction of a certain severity. Well, for the auditor, what would they consider to determine whether those controls are properly working? Is it the financial impact of drug recalls? I would say no, because drug recalls are after the fact. Well, I need to know way before the drug is on the market. So A is out for sure. The sensitivity and specificity of the alert system, would that help me to judge its suitability? Yes. How sensitive it is. How sensitive means what? It means how fast does it react, detect any adverse reaction, and that sensitivity is correct. In other words, it's detecting a true alert and notify me. I would say the sensitivity and the specificity of the alert system definitely goes into the design. Between A and B, I can for sure take out A, keep B. The volume of drugs produced annually. I don't think that has anything to do with the suitability. Maybe if we're looking at efficiency of production, so I would say between B and C, definitely C and out. The number of safety officers employed. It's good to have more safety officers employed, but you could have many employed. But if the controls are not suitably designed, that's not going to affect anything. Therefore, it's not going to affect my answer. Therefore, the sensitivity and the specificity of the alert system will determine the suitability of the control. So the answer is B. What should you do now? You want to go to Farhat Lectures, look at additional MCQs. That's going to help you, especially if you're studying for your Information Systems and Controls exam or any other certifications. Invest in yourself. Good luck, study hard, and of course, stay safe.